Greetings, family. This is Cassandra Faye Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates, founder of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. And I'm just going to do a short read tonight. There's so much I want to talk about, and I'm really trying to figure out a way to prioritize and organize these different things. I don't want to spend too much time doing that, but I also don't want to do them lightly, these topics that I want to address. And so, anyway, right now I'm going to read our conspiracy, the conspiracy of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. I, Cassandra Faye Floyd, as a peculiar expression of the Almighty and Divine She, am joining in breath with my family to conspire on behalf of the whole made well. We are breathing these words together to ensure that our home, her body, is restored to her original perfect glory, a glory that is perfect in peace, love, bliss, happiness, and ecstasy. This world exists because we collectively will it so. We are the representatives of the Mother's reign on earth. This beautiful conspiracy is spoken as one cosmic earthly orchestra to guarantee heaven on earth. With the power of our mothers, we welcome this glorious future into the now. It is, as we say, Mommy and I are one. So, like I said, I want to start regularly using that as the introduction. Today, I'm going to do a read, but I want to talk to you, and y'all can give me some feedback. I have several topics that I would like to address over time, maybe over the next week. I got so much going on. There's just so much going on. So much going on in the world, so much going on in our individual lives. And so I'm really trying to be purposeful about how I approach these things. And so I have some ideas, right? Um, yeah, I'm not even going to discuss them. But I have some ideas. If you have ideas, you can send them out. I have some ideas. But today I'm going to keep it concise. We're going to, for those of you who had been following along, I took a break for a while from reading this book, Beyond God the Father and Towards a Philosophy of Women's Revolution by Mary Daly. For those of you who have been following me any period of time, you know that this is the second book that we're reading by Mary Daly. The first book was called Pure Lust. That is in my folders. So if you missed the reading of Pure Lust, I suggest you go back and listen to the reading. It is a great book, as is the one that we're currently reading, and I want to go ahead and finish this book. So tonight, I'm going to start at the bottom of page 28, which is entitled "Why Speak About God." It might seem that women's revolution should just go about its business of generating a new consciousness without worrying about God. I suggest that the fallacy involved in this would be an overlooking of a basic question that is implied in human existence, and that the pitfall in such an oversight is cutting off the radical potential of the movement itself. It is reasonable to take the position that sustained effort towards self-transcendence requires keeping alive in one's consciousness the question of ultimate transcendence, that is, of God. It implies recognition of the fact that we have no power over the ultimately real, and that whatever authentic power we have is derived from participation in ultimate reality. This awareness, always hard to sustain, makes it possible to be free of idolatry, even in regard to one's own cause, since it tells us that all presently envisaged goals, lifestyles, symbols, and societal structures may be transitory. This is the meaning that the question of God should have for liberation, sustaining a concern that is really open to the nature, in other words, that is really ultimate. Such a concern will not become fixated upon limited objectives. Feminists in the past have, in a way, been idolatrous about such objectives as the right to vote. Whoa! Oh shit! Uh, um, she said feminists in the past, in a way, have been idolatrous about such objectives as the right to vote. Indeed, this right is due to women in justice, and let's see. Indeed, this right is due to women in just. Indeed, this right is due to women in justice, and it is entirely understandable that feminists' energies were drained by the efforts needed to achieve even such a modicum amount of justice. But from the experience of such struggles, we are in a position now to distrust token victories within a societal and structural framework that renders them almost meaningless. The new wave of feminism desperately needs to be not only many faceted but cosmic and ultimately religious in its vision. Um, Religious in its vision. This means reaching outward and inward toward the God beyond and beneath the gods who have stolen our very identity. Now, I want to say something really quick. I'm not going to do a lot of deviating tonight, but I do want to say this. That paragraph that I just read is so deep, and it sounds like it was written in response to today. Like it was written in response to this vigor and this enthusiasm and this almost kind of like repetitious chanting of the urgency of voting, this repetitious, chanting of vote or die, or vote because our life depends on it. This sentence where she talks about how feminists in the past have been idolatrous, worshipful about the objectives to achieve the right to vote. She said idolatrous. For those of you who don't know what idolatrous means, it means to worship a false idol. The worship of a false idol, idolatrous, about their objectives to achieve the right to vote. And she talks about how the new wave of feminism desperately needs to not only be multifaceted, but also cosmic and ultimately religious in its vision. Hey, baby, this book was not written about the current state of affairs where the issues of voting are concerned. This book was written in 1973. 1973. So I want to continue to remind you of that because this book sounds so currently relevant as if it was written about current affairs all throughout the book. So I just want to continue to remind you of that. The idea that human beings are to the image of God is an intuition whose implications could hardly be worked through under patriarchal conditions. If it is true that human beings have projected God in their own... Girl, what is you doing? Stop. If it is true that human beings have projected God in their own image, it is also true that we can evolve beyond the projections of earlier stages of consciousness. Meaning we can change the image of God. Oh. It is the creative potential itself in human beings that is the image of God. As the essential victims of the archaic God projections, women can bring this process of creativity into a new phase. This involves iconoclasm, the breaking of idols, even and perhaps especially through the activity of its most um, militantly atheistic and a-religious members. The movement is smashing images that obstruct the becoming of the image of God. The basic idol breaking will be done on the level of internalized images of male superiority, on the plane of exorcising them from consciousness and from the cultural institutions that bred them. Whoa! Yo. Greetings, everyone. Let's see, 11 to 888. Ham Norris, FG Apothecary, CO. Greetings. For those of you who are tuning in late, I am reading the book Beyond God the Father and Toward a Philosophy of Women's Liberation by Mary Daly. Yeah. One aspect of this expurgation is dethronement of false gods. Dethronement of false gods, ideas and symbols of God that religion has foisted upon the human spirit. Granted that the human spirit has created the religions that do this. Yo. I've already discussed this to some extent, but it might be well to focus specifically upon three false deities who still haunt the prayers, hymns, sermons, and religious education of Christianity. The three usurpers I have in mind have already been detected and made the targets of attack by liberal male theologians. But the point in mentioning them here is to indicate the specific relevance of feminism to their demise. One of these false deities to be dethroned is the God of explanation. Oh my God. Is the God of explanation, or God as a stopgap for the incompleteness of our knowledge, as Bonhoeffer called him. This serves sometimes as the legitimation of anomic occurrences, such as the suffering of a child, a legitimation process which Peter Berger lucidly analyzes in discussing the problem of theodicy. Such phenomena are explained as being God's will. Yes. As God's will. So also are socially prevailing inequalities of power and privilege by a justifying process which easily encourages masochistic attitudes. Clearly, this deity does not encourage commitment to the task of analyzing and eradicating the social, economic, and psychological roots of suffering. As marginal beings who are coming into awareness, women are in a situation to see that God's plan is often a front for men's plans and a cover for inadequacy, ignorance, and evil. Our vantage point offers opportunities for dislodging this deity from its revered position on the scale of human delusions. Another idol is the god of otherworldliness. Holy shit. The most obvious face of this deity in the past has been that of the judge whose chief activity consists in rewarding or punishing after death. As de Beauvoir indicated, women have been the major consumers of this religious product, since there has been so little self-realization possible by the female sex in this life. It was natural to focus attention on the next. As mass consumers of this image, women have the power to remove it from the market, mainly by living full lives here and now. I do not mean to advocate a mere reutterance of the secularization theology that was so popular in the 60s. This obvious shape of the God of or the worldliness has, after all, been the target of male theologians for some time, and the result has often been a kind of translation of religion into humanism to such an extent that there is a kind of self-liquidation of theology. What I see beginning to happen with women coming into their own goes beyond the secularization. The rejection of the simplistic God of otherworldliness does not mean necessarily reduction to banal secularism. If women can sustain the courage essential to liberation, this can give rise to a deeper otherworldliness, an awareness that the process of creating a counter world to the counterfeit this world presented to consciousness by the societal structures that oppress us is participation in eternal life. It should be noted that the God lurking behind some forms of Protestant piety has functioned similarly to the otherworldly God of popular Roman Catholic piety. In his analysis of the effects of Luther's doctrine of salvation by faith alone, Max Weber uncovers serious problems of ethical motivation involving a complicated series of phenomena. Quote, every rational and planned procedure for achieving salvation, every relevance on good works, and above all, every effort to surpass normal ethical behavior by ascetic achievement is regarded by religion based on faith as a wicked preoccupation with purely human powers, end quote. Trans-worldly asceticism and monasticism tend to be rejected when salvation by faith is stressed, and as a result, there may be an increased emphasis on vocational activity within the world. However, as Weber explains, emphasis upon personal religious relationship to God tends to be accompanied by an attitude of individualism in pursuit of such worldly vocational activity. One consequence is an attitude of patient resignation regarding institutional structures, both worldly and churchly. It is precisely this schizophrenic attitude that combines personal vocational ambition within the prevailing set of social arrangements and passive acceptance of the system that radical feminism recognizes as destructive. Whoa! Whoa! Oh, whoa. God damn. Hey, hold on. Let me mark this. Let's see. Here we go. Baby. Yes. A third idol, let's see, intimately related to those described above, is the God who is the judge of sin, who confirms the rightness of the rules and the roles of the reigning system, maintaining false consequences and self-destructive guilt feelings. Women have suffered both. Let's see. Women have suffered both mentally and physically from this piety. From this deity, in whose name they have been informed that birth control and abortion are unequivocally wrong, that they should be subordinate to their husbands, that they must be present at rituals and services in which men have all the leadership roles, and in which they are degraded not only by enforced passivity, but also verbally and symbolically. Y'all, come on in the room now, get comfortable, clutch your pearls, okay? Listen, I'm going to read that whole little segment again. The third idol, intimately related to those described above, is the God who is the judge of sin, who confirms the rightness of the rules and roles of the reigning system, maintaining false consciences that are, maintaining false consciences and self-destructive guilt feelings. Come on. Women have suffered both mentally and physically from this particular deity, in whose name they have been informed, that birth control and abortion are unequivocally wrong, that they should be subordinate to their husbands, that they must be present at rituals and services in which men have all the leadership roles and in which they are degraded not only by enforced passivity, but also verbally and symbolically. Although this most blatant Although this is most blatant in arch conservative religions, the God who imposes false guilt. Oh my God. Oh, 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 oh. Shit. Hold on. Damn. The God that imposes false guilt is hardly absent from the liberal Protestantism and Judaism, where his presence is more subtle. Come on. Know somebody feelings about to be hurt. Women's growth in self-respect will deal. Oh my God, yo. Listen. She say, look, let me start back. Although this although this is most blatant in arch conservative religions, the God who imposes false guilt is hardly absent from liberal Protestantism and Judaism, where his presence is more subtle. Women's growth in self-respect will deal the death blow to this, as well as to the other demons dressed as gods. Oh, listen! Did y'all hear that last sentence? Listen, she said women's growth in self-respect. That's all. Women's growth in self-respect will deal the death blow to this, as well as to the other demons dressed as gods. Oh my God. Ooh, Mary Daly, baby. Women's liberation as spiritual revolution. Okay, come on in the room. I have indicated that because the becoming of women involves a radical encounter with nothingness, it bears with it a new surge of ontological hope. This hope is essentially active. The passive hope that has been so prevalent in the history of religious attitudes corresponds to the objectified God from whom one may anticipate favors. Within that frame of reference, human beings have tried to relate to ultimate reality as an object to be known, cajoled, and manipulated. The tables are turned, however, for the objectified God has a way of reducing his producers to objects who lack capacity for autonomous action. Whoa. In contrast to this, the God who is power of being acts as a moral power, summoning women and men to act out of our deepest hope and to become who we can be. Yo. I am therefore in agreement with Johann Metz that authentic hope will be active and creative. Yo. Authentic hope will be active and creative. The difference that I see is the specific experimental basis for this as an ontological experience. Yes. Let's see. is an ontological experience. This experience in its first phase is one of non-being. It's in its second phase, it's an intuition of being, which, as Jacques Mark Veoni, I appreciate that feedback, baby. Yes, Mary be going ham. Okay. This experience in its first phase is one of non being. In its second phase, it is an intuition of being, which, as Jacques Maritain described it, is a dynamic intuition. Clearly, from what has proceeded in this chapter, I see this ontological basis of hope to be particularly available to women at this point in history because of the marginal situation of females in an endocentric world. This hope is communal rather than merely individualistic because it is grounded in the two edges of courage. It is grounded in the two-edged courage to be. That is, it is hope coming from the experience of individuation and participation. It drives beyond the objectified God that is imagined as limited in benevolence, bestowing blessings upon his favorites. Ho! Bestowing blessings upon his favorites. The power of being is that in which all finite beings participate, but not on a one-to-one basis. Since this power is in all, let's say, the power of being is that in which all finite beings participate, but not on a one-to-one basis, since this power is in all while transcending all. Communal hope involves, in some manner, a profound interrelationship with other finite beings, human and non-human. Ontological communal hope, then, is cosmic. Its essential dynamic is directed to the universal community. Finally, ontological hope is revolutionary, since the insight in which it is grounded is double-edged intuition of non-being and of being. It extends beyond the superstitious fixations of technical reason. The latter, as Tillich has shown, when it is cut off from the intuitive knowledge of ontological reason, cannot get beyond superstition. Holy shit. What am I saying? What am I saying? What is she saying? Let me say that. What is she saying right here? When she is saying the latter, as Tillich has shown, when it is cut off from intuitive knowledge and ontological reasoning. Ontology is the science of being. And when I say being, I mean being in a material world, a lived experience in a material world, in a biological world, right? Of ontological reason that comes from the experience of living in your flesh, of being in the material world, of having an existence, a tangible existence, right? She says, the latter as to, okay, so let me read that whole statement. Finally, ontological hope is revolutionary. See, she's making a distinction between two hopes. Are y'all following me? Because I don't want to just read if y'all ain't following. Are y'all, some thumbs up, some hands raised? Is everybody following, or do I need to slow this down a little bit? She's talking in this section about hope being treated as a deity. Okay? Two different types of hope, though. Let me reel y'all back a little bit. Y'all remember when the Negro was running for president? I'm talking about Obama. Y'all remember when Obama was running for president? And his whole campaign was based on what? Yes, we can. Si se puede. And hope. Hope. Hope, 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 hope. Hope for what? Hope to do what? Hope for what? Hope for what future? What future was this hopeful campaign? This is what she's talking about. She's talking about the two hopes. One that has been imposed on us by patriarchal religions that are disembodied and always serve the rulers at our expense. Use hope as a weapon. Use hope as an instrument. What an instrument? Hold on, let me go. Let me reel this back a little bit. The two different hopes is passive hope and active hope. Huh? Passive hope, which you learn from your goddamn preacher. Yes, the Wizard of Oz hope. Yes, yes. Passive hope that has been imposed on you by wicked ass institutions of a God that, what does she say here? Of a God that has limited benevolence. Limited benevolence, right? He ain't benevolent to everybody. He has limited benevolence. What does that mean? This book was written in 1973. What is the limited benevolence? Bestowing blessings and favors upon his chosen, upon his few, upon his favorite, who he arbitrarily determines is one group of people, and everybody else is heathen ass Gentiles that are just up for the taking and ripe for exploitation. That's the hope you get. The hope you get as the Gentile heathen ripe for exploitation. The hope you get based on your proximity of the God of their creation is maybe you can go to heaven if you suffer enough. If you suffer rightly in this life, then you can be hopeful that your ass will get to walk through the pearly gates and walk on the streets of gold into the land of milk and honey and all of that bullshit. She's saying that ontological hope is revolutionary. And ontological hope is active hope. You don't hope just you like y'all gonna be mad. Y'all gonna be mad because hope is the same shit that has corralled your motherfucking asses like cattle into that goddamn voting booth. As long as you can remember, hopeful that one good cracker or one good Negro is going to do the right thing once they take office. Let me give them my little hopeful power in the form of this little check. And that's all you have. That's all your obligation is. As passively hopeful. I just read in this book to y'all last week. What the white boy say? What did the white boy say? Oh, what he said. This was where is that? Where he tells I wish I gotta figure out a better system of marking this shit because everything in the book is marked. Hold on. Listen, here it go. I just read this to y'all last week. The fundamental dynamic of this theology was suggested by one of Nixon's very own speechwriters, Ray Price, who said, quote, this was in 1973. Selection of a president has to be an act of faith, an act of hope. This faith isn't achieved by reason. We don't need these motherfuckers thinking. That's what he said. He said, we do not need voters out here thinking for themselves. We don't need that. Huh? He said the selection of a president has to be an act of faith and hope. This faith is not achieved by reason. It is achieved by charisma, by a feeling of trust, a feeling of trust. By charisma. That's what he said. This is a speechwriter for the president of the United States. Okay? Price said, look, the last thing we can afford if we want to be able to maintain our position of power over the ignorant masses, the last thing we need is for them to start thinking for themselves. To start to be able to reason beyond the shit that we write for you guys when you're campaigning. The speeches that we write for you, being able to discern for themselves through so-called charisma. And I'm gonna tell you, you feel me? We are in an age right now which is very concerned where these motherfuckers don't even have to feign charisma. They ain't gotta have no swag. Your presidential candidates don't got no swag, aren't great orators. You know, Obama won y'all to that bullshit because he was a great orator. He was a good-looking Negro with a beautiful wife, some beautiful kids, some charming kids. There was a level of charisma and repetitious chanting of baseless phrases that won you to passive hope. Oh, yes, it did. Oh, yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. That's how he won. He won on charisma. He ran on great speeches. He ran on the religiosity of the voting process. Oh, yes, he did. That's how he won. He took y'all to church. That's what he did. That's how he won. I'm telling you, this ain't her opinion. These are quotes made by men in power, men in positions of power at the helm of the United States. He said, we do not need reason. What we need to happen cannot be achieved by reason. We cannot afford the 400 million citizens of the United States to be thinking, reasoning, rational human beings with the ability to discern for themselves what they need for themselves. That's what he said in that little statement. That's what he said. He said the selection of the president has to be an act of faith and hope. This faith isn't achieved by reason. It is achieved by charisma and by a feeling of trust. That's why they always be plucking at your motherfucking heartstrings. He said, Price also argued that the campaign would be effective only if, quote, we can get people to make the emotional leap, or what theologians called the leap of faith. Yeah. Your ass in church. Yes, straight up a wild circus with flying monkeys, like people who lay it on the Lord and just let Jesus take the wheel. Come on. Yes. I just give it up to God. Do you give your bills up to God? Or are you engaged in active hope when you go your ass to work so you can make your $15-$20 an hour to ensure that at the end of said period you have enough money you guarantee through active hope? Active hope. You feel me? That them bills gonna get paid. That's what you do. I'm gonna just give it up to God. I'm gonna just give it up to. I'm gonna put it in what you say here, power Kazmac. Yes, I'm gonna just lay it on the Lord. I'm gonna let Jesus take the wheel. Let me tell you, I wasn't gonna do it. I wasn't going to do it. I was just gonna read it straight through. But since Power Kazmac brought it up, one of the lives I'm gonna do this week is gonna be. I'm gonna call. I made a joke about it, but I'm totally gonna do it. I'm gonna call it. What did I say I was gonna call it? Hold on, I got it wrote down. I said the title is going to be Jesus, please hurry up and come get your people. That's what's gonna be. It's gonna be. Y'all get ready. It's gonna be this. It's gonna be this week coming. Jesus, please hurry up and come get your people. Please hurry up and come get your people. Everybody out here talking about the rapture. Everybody talking about Jesus coming back for the church and all of that shit. I have a sneaking suspicion if that nigga would go ahead and hurry up and come and get his people now, the world would be much better off. I have a sneaking suspicion that if he would go ahead, hurry up and get his motherfucking peoples, we would be in a much better place. We would be in a much all these theologians, all these preachers all over the globe talking about the second coming and Jesus coming back for the church. Can y'all hurry him on? Can y'all hurry him to fuck up your prayer game so Jesus can go ahead and come back and snatch y'all? Maybe we'll have a fighting chance. Maybe the earth will have a fighting chance if y'all go about your business. Go on to the planet where y'all go to or whatever the fuck. But yeah, that's coming next week. Next week, y'all get ready. Have your pearls pre-clutched. You feel me? Have your motherfucking wig sternly pent in so it don't get snatched. Cause I'm coming up in here to hurt some feelings. That's all we gonna be talking about biblical prophecy up in this piece. Yes, it is. Yes, I'm gonna pull out my Bible. I'm gonna pull out my King James version on y'all asses. Sure am. We gonna comb through the book of Revelations and Isaiah. Let me tell y'all a story. I was not gonna do this. Let me just tell y'all what had happened. Let me tell y'all what had happened. I was so hyped. Most of you know, the other day I went to go see Jane's Addiction in concert. And I went to go see Jane's Addiction in concert. Jane's Addiction and Love and Rockets. Jane's Addiction is one of my favorite bands ever in life. Ever in life. You feel me? That concert was so good. It was so great for a band who broke up damn near 30 years ago, have not put out a new album since they broke up, to jump on the stage together, child, and take a bitch back 30 years. That concert was great. Great. And I don't say great often. It was great. Okay? However, you knew there was going to be a however. You feel me? I didn't. So this is probably going to be something I'm going to do too. This is going to be much more controversial. So controversial, I'm really debating about a diplomatic way of addressing this issue without coming off, quote, as an anti-Semite. So it wasn't until recently, because it didn't even occur. Like, some things you just don't even think about until they become an issue. I have been a pro-Palestinian activist for a long time, over 20 years, right? And even with that, this never occurred to me until this October 7th thing. And I'm living in LA, which has an extraordinarily prolific Jewish population. Child, I'ma tell you, I would easily presuppose that 75% of what we would call white people in this city are Jewish. And everybody black that's in the industry, everybody black in the industry that's mixed race is Jewish. Everybody. You name them, and I'm going to tell you, they're Jewish. You understand what I'm saying? Tracy Ellis Ross is Jewish. Lenny Kravitz is Jewish. Lisa Bonet is Jewish. Jason Momoa is Jewish. They all got one Jewish parent. You feel me? And so it wasn't until this October 7th thing, and not just the October 7th thing in and of itself, the rise in blatant Zionism that has accompanied it, right? Because, like I said, I've been a pro-Palestinian activist for a long time, and I've done a lot of revolutionary work with Jewish people. And there was not a contradiction, because these Jewish people, too, were anti-Zionist, they were pro-Palestinian, they were revolutionary, whatever. But all of a sudden, there is this extreme spike in Zionism, and I experienced that shit in real time here in LA. So, and even in the business that I have, this shit is weird as fuck. So let me tell you, nothing is random, but I'm going to say it was random. I was out at a bar one night having like my local neighborhood watering hole. Girl, get your ass down. Now, because you do it. Hold on. Let me get my cat, because she about to. Girl, get down. Get down. You know better. You always want to do the extra. Get down. Turkey. Hey, stop. Trifling. Stop. Sorry about that. She always want to put on the show and do the most. Anyway, so I was at this bar, and something was just like, research all your favorite bands, or do a research. Because when the October thing first jumped off, and I started seeing all of these Jewish people coming out with like really concerning statements in support of this violent aggression against the Palestinians, right? And they were all like movie stars. So I was like, how many famous people or famous people I was Googling famous people you didn't know were Jewish, right? Famous people you didn't know were Jewish. I just started Googling in the different ways. And so in my little book, I'm writing down all these names. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Didn't even think about it because Jewish people typically, in general, and even us who are non-Jewish, typically think of Jewish people as a very tiny microcosm or a tiny population of people in this country. But their presence is so prolific that it's something that we don't even think about. A presence so prolific that we don't even think about. We think about whiteness, we think about blackness, we think about brownness, we think about redness or indigeneity, we think about yellowness, but we do not think about Jewish people as a distinct like race, as we do like black people, white people, red people. So they have been able, what I say is to hide in plain sight through miscegenation, right? Because it used to be for a hardcore thing. You didn't marry, if you wasn't Jewish, you didn't marry a non-Jewish person. You didn't have sex with a non-Jewish person, blah, 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 blah. But that changed really radically, really quickly. And so sitting here, talking about the community, the group that's able to hide in plain sight, baby. I started, after I did the famous people you didn't know was Jewish, I was like, damn, so many of these people I didn't even think twice about. It didn't even occur because they have been able, what we identify as Jewish, which is white-skinned people, have been able to exist as white, just as white, and do their life. You feel me? Baby. So I was like, well, who are the famous musicians that are Jewish? Because music is my everything. Music is my bag. That was a very long way of saying that's how I found out, which totally made sense. Like, but again, it doesn't occur to you. You don't even think about it. It's a non-issue until it becomes an issue. Perry Farrell and the bass player for Jane's Addiction are Jewish. And every musician you can probably think of, child, is Jewish. Everybody, obviously, because it becomes obvious when you look for it. When you're not looking for it, it's just like something that's not even on your radar to think about. All the members of KISS are Jewish, right? Judas Priest, several members in Judas Priest, Jewish. I'm talking about, obviously hardcore, heavy metal, rock and roll bands, because that's what I'm into. That's what I love since I was a kid. I couldn't believe how many punk rock bands. Oh my God. So. My immediate list just from being in this bar was like 150 bands or musicians that are Jewish. Rush, I love this band so much. Yeah, duh. Yes, okay, yeah, they're obviously Jewish, but it was a non-issue that I did. They was just white men, just rock and rollers. You know what I'm saying? So we're at the show, Jane's Addiction. I had to preface that way. So Perry Farrell, who is a genius. Perry Farrell is Jewish. Baby, let me tell you what had happened at this concert the other night. The show is almost done. They're probably going to play several more songs, 2-3 more songs. But there was a moment where the music gets really ethereal, just really witchy and ethereal, right? And then Perry Farrell starts talking. And we're listening to, and I can see I'm not the only one because I know everything they ever wrote, everything they ever did, everything they ever wrote. So I'm like, I don't know this song. Did they make something new? I'm looking around. Everybody else is looking around. It's bone quiet in the place. There's 6,000 people there. Bone quiet because everybody looking around like, we don't know this song. I knew it wasn't just me. Music's all ethereal and witchy. He starts talking. And he's like, yes, we're living in a world, where so much is going on, whatever, right? Baby, let me tell you what the hell had happened. The music is witchy, like it's trying to pull you into a trance or some shit. It was nice. I was like, this is nice, but I don't know this song. He's talking about the world and this and that and the other. I looked to the walls of the stadium, right? And you know how you have light shows and stuff that be going off in the perimeter or whatever. The light show on the walls of the perimeter was blue stars of David, multiple ones, molding in and out of each other. I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I'm like, surely I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. I'm looking at the walls. I'm looking at the walls. This is in our peripheral vision. They on the stage, but in our peripheral vision, that becomes my frontal vision. Because I'm like, what the fuck? The music is all witchy. I was like, these motherfuckers is trying to cast a spell on a bitch. y'all motherfuckers in here trying to cast spells in our peripheral vision, as if it's a non-issue, as if it's just like, shh, right? They down here, way down here, front and center, on some way witchy, weird transit type of music, and he's talking like a what you call them, like a griot. Da 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 da. I'm looking at the wall. I'm in the wall. I'm like, I don't believe what I am looking at. 4 or 5 stars of David's just mushing and melding in and out of each other on the wall. Ain't nobody paying attention to the shit because everybody's eyes is front and center, but you know I see everything. So I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? Then he starts to narrow his little speech. And he says, oh my God, y'all. This happened. I want to talk to you about now. Let me just preface one more time. The whole concert up until this point has been straightforward, hardcore, cutting edge, old school Jane's Addiction music. The first song they played was Pigs and Zen. This is about the folk. This day version of Fuck the Police. The first song they played was Pigs and Zen. Y'all know every other song, every other word in the song is motherfucker. Talking about the police, right? They open up with the banger. You feel me? He got a bottle of wine, drinking on the stage. You feel me? Like, yes, old school Jane's Addiction. Let's go. And then all of a sudden, he's on some witchy transit, I'm gonna be your motherfucking prophet priest type shit as we're getting to the end of the concert. So then he says, music still witchy. I'm getting goosebumps just telling you. I want to talk to you about an ancient prophecy. I said, here, I already knew. I said, here we go with this bullshit. Here we go with this bullshit and ass bullshit. Perry, don't do it. Don't do it, bruh. I want to talk to you about an ancient prophecy told thousands of years ago, according to the book of Isaiah. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. According to the book of Isaiah, there would come a time. He said we, like all ambiguously, but nigga, I know exactly who you was talking about. He said there would come a time when we would experience, what did he call it? Imminent. What did he call it? Imminent redemption. According to the book of Isaiah, witchy music, Star of David passing by your peripheral vision. So it's fucking impacting your goddamn pineal gland. It's coming in all subconsciously and shit. They playing this old witchy music. You understand? And he's talking like a griot, like a soothsayer or some shit. Talking about an ancient prophecy as told by Isaiah in the book of Isaiah about a day that will come where we, God's chosen people, where we, because that's what he meant, because that's what Isaiah meant. I Googled it. I'm right there in the concert. This nigga say imminent redemption. I said, let me Google this shit right now. I'm on the phone in the concert. What the fuck Isaiah had to say about imminent redemption? Here we go with this bullshit. You feel me? He say, according to the book of Isaiah, there would come a time where we would experience imminent redemption, imminent redemption, imminent redemption over and over and over again. Yes, he did that. Yes, he did that. I'm reading while this shit is happening what the book, the condensed synopsis of what the book of Isaiah has to say about imminent redemption. Let me tell you what it said. That there was a period, this period, whatever it was, where God's chosen people, the Hebrews, who apparently through 4,000 years of human history, the whole Old Testament, these niggas kept fucking up. They God's chosen people, but they kept fucking up, kept disobeying God, kept disobeying they God over and over and over again, kept fucking up, and God keep forgiving them. What did she just say here? That this limited benevolence of they God always bestowing blessings on them upon his favorites, huh? What did she say in the other chapter? Disseminating blessings and punishments depending upon his arbitrary will. He said, so the book of Isaiah says that the Hebrews once again was fucking up, committing blasphemy and sinning against their God and all of this shit. And Isaiah foretold this future where they would be fucking up, doing all the dirt, doing the wicked deeds of all the heathen people and shit, participating in the world. And it would not be until this day where all of God's chosen people turn back to the ways of their ancestors, turn back to the ways of Abraham. What does that mean? Enthusiastic, diabolical adherers to the strict conservative practicing of the laws of Abraham. That it would not be until this day that the world would turn its back on God's chosen people, and God's chosen people in their hour of isolation would turn back to the old ways, would turn back to the ways of their Father God. And in this moment where all seemed lost and the world had turned their back on God's chosen people, they will experience imminent redemption. This motherfucker, Perry Farrell, who I have loved, you understand me? Loved beyond what you can imagine. I love this white boy. Have since I was a teenager. One of my top 3 favorite bands on earth. This was a monumental experience for me. I was like, I got to see Jane's Addiction before they retire or die. For me to be in that space and watch this man attempt to cast a spell on 6,000 people, because that's what he did. That's what he did. He said, what did he say? After he talked about imminent redemption, and the music gets deeper and louder. Imminent redemption. Star of David, all sparkling on the wall, melding in and out of it. And then he said, we have to talk about the world, the way the world is. We have to look for peace in the Middle East. Now, y'all have to start understanding coded language. Because when this motherfucker who just preceded that statement, we have to look for peace in the Middle East, we have to hope for peace in the Middle East, prefaced that with a story about a prediction made by Isaiah about one group of people that have propped themselves up historically as God's chosen people, the only people who can sin over and over and over and over again, and offend their God over and over and over again, and he will always choose them. That's what their story teaches them. That it don't matter what the fuck we do, God got our back. The God of Abraham, he got us. We can be out here committing genocide. It don't matter. He got us. Because we the chosen. We can't do no wrong, is what we're saying. We can't do no wrong. So here he goes, prefacing a story that is well over 2,000 years old about how these Hebrews keep fucking up. And God is always going to have their back. No matter what they do, no matter what wrong they do, God going to have their back. And there's going to be a period of time where the level of dirt that they have committed in the world is going to have the whole world turn their back on them. And at that moment, they are going to go back to their foundational, fundamentalist, conservative ways of exploiting, of committing crimes against the Gentiles, the heathens. You understand? Those that are, quote, outside the sight of God. And it is in that moment when they become their most tyrannical, that's my interpretation, when they become their most tyrannical adherents of the God of Abraham, that's when they will experience imminent redemption. That's when they're going to experience imminent redemption. Y'all have to start learning how to listen to coded language, understanding how to decipher coded language. When he said peace, he wasn't talking about peace for everybody in the Middle East. He wasn't. Not if he prefaced that whole statement by a goddamn spell he just performed on stage. No, he wasn't talking about peace for everybody in the Middle East. He wasn't talking about an end to genocide. I'm telling you. Now, he can correct me if he want to, but that's what the fuck I heard. You ain't gonna preface no we want peace in the Middle East with a goddamn story about your Abrahamic freaking God Yahweh, a tyrannical, monstrous motherfucker that has reigned holy hell on the whole planet, going provide y'all with imminent redemption for all your wrongs. And then you're going to talk about some, we want peace in the Middle East. No, you don't. You want peace for yourselves at everyone else's expense in the Middle East. This is coded ass language. I'm just telling you, that's what I experienced. I left there so distraught. Hype as hell. Can you imagine what kind of mind fuck that is? I love this band more than I can communicate. But that bullshit he pulled, and I am not above criticism. I'm not. If I am wrong and somehow this passes before the sight of Perry Farrell, and he was like, "Nah, sis, that was a total misinterpretation of what I was saying. You misunderstood what I was coming." I'll be like, you know what? Show me how I'm wrong. And he'll open up the book of Isaiah. This is what I meant, whatever. And this is what I intended, because I believe people have a right to live and whatever. And he can say that and argue with me. And if he can show me how my interpretation of what he said was wrong, I'll eat crow. I'll be like, you know what? You all right. I didn't realize that's what you meant, and that's how it came off. My little Google search of Isaiah and imminent redemption was based on limited information. Thank you so much for the clarification. You still the one. You still my ace. Outside of that, I know what the fuck I heard. I know what I heard. I know what I experienced. I'm the only one there. The only one of 6,000 people that could have experienced it the way that I did because of my peculiar worldview and because of the fact that I study this shit. I study this shit. So that happened. How did I get on that? Oh, because was it power? Let's see. Let me go back to these comments, because I think it was Power Kazmak that raised it when I was talking about how they're everywhere. They cosplay secular. Come on. Infiltrating and whispering on the edge of your mind via media, news, music, movies, money, wars, and even sub-counterculture operations. Come on. Because, baby, when I sat there in that bar doing that breakdown of how many of my favorite bands were Jewish, I was like, okay. And then I told y'all about, in one of the videos, y'all have to go back and watch it, about this whole conspiracy theory about how rock and roll, at least in the 1960s, was a psyop by the CIA, and how Laurel Canyon was notorious. Laurel Canyon, California, 30 minutes down the road from me, was where a lot of these CIA agents raised their kids, and a lot of these kids ended up becoming famous musicians in the 1960s rock scene, like the lead singer for the Mamas and the Papas, Jim Morrison from the Doors, Frank Zappa, Pappy was CIA. The drummer for the Police was the Police. The drummer for the Police, his daddy wasn't just the police. He wasn't just CIA. He was the founder of the Central Intelligence Agency. He founded the CIA, the drummer for the police, founded the CIA, created the organization. Right here in Laurel Canyon, all these big name musicians that were transcendental, deep thinking musicians, people who had us contemplating deep ideas and shit. I was obsessed with the Doors when I was a kid. Obsessed. Listening to the Doors on headphones on my cassette player all night, having this shit in my head. I said, are we like those of us who think I got deep about this shit. I was like, those of us who think, that we're so deep and philosophical and like transcendental and we ahead of the curve, are we the byproducts of a fucking psyop campaign? I love Frank Zappa. Even when you watch videos, like interviews of Frank Zappa, he was like so politically sharp and astute and ahead of his time and, and radical and shit. His pappy was CIA. His pappy was CIA. Frank Zappa, y'all. I was like, I don't know what's real no more. I don't know what's true no more. I told y'all about the damn me seeing a documentary recently right here on YouTube called The Cult of I Am. We all talking about our affirmations, our meditations having to include the I am in the present so we can make it real for the power of manifestation and shit, and how everything that we understand or use in our popular meditations about I am and the idea of I am being the greatest magnet in the universe for attracting what you want and shit. Our understanding of it, that the idea of the I am is very, 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 very ancient. But our use of and understanding of the I am comes from an organization, a cult in the 1920s who had ties to the Third Reich, who had ties to certain very high-ranking political people in the United States government, and they were open white nationalists. The reason any of us know anything about doing deep meditation and having spiritual experiences on Mount Shasta is because of these same two white people, child. I like, has the state infected everything? Like, is there nothing sacred? And the answer is no. The answer is no. The answer is no. Baby, research your chakras. Research your chakras. I'm talking about conspiracy theories around your chakras. Research your chakras. Everything that you think you know that makes you spiritual and ahead of the curve and shit. Child, the state has infected it all of it, I promise. And so this thing with hidden in plain sight, the Jewish presence among us, but 150 bands were either all Jewish or part Jewish. And to watch Perry Farrell cast a spell on that stage the night before last, child, made me question my whole existence. Made me question my whole rebellious adolescent years. Just made me question it all, child. Because here he was a renegade, baby. He was a rebel. He was a genius, Perry Farrell was. But a genius to what end? A genius for what purpose? Anyway, child. Okay, so I'm gonna continue to read just for a few more minutes. Let me read some of y'all comments, because some of these comments is off the chain. Yes. Okay. Guard your portals, people. They want to siphon your soul, suck you dry like a vampire. What are your portals? Power Kesmet. Your eyeballs, your ears, your nose, your mouth, your skin, your vagina, your anus, your rectum. Mm-hmm. That shit was so deep the other night. I'd be so grateful. I'd be so grateful for these interventions by our mother. I do. She's like, you better see. There is nothing. You better see everything. You better see everything. You better see everything. You better be able, Cassandra, to make clear that which has been hidden in plain sight for people. There were 6,000 people in there, and I guarantee you nobody experienced what I experienced in that place the other night. Because the first thing they hit was like, I don't recognize the song. That made me become present, where I wasn't just like screaming all the lyrics, the whole song, motherfucker, yeah, right? It's like, be present. And as soon as he said, I want to talk to you about an ancient prophecy that was told, I said, instantly, because I know him. Like, that's why I prefaced the way that I did. I was not until recently sitting in a bar writing down all the bands that I love who I never knew were Jewish. I see Perry Farrell is on the list. I was like, of course. But of course, I wasn't paying attention to that. So my default, as soon as he said, I want to talk to you about an ancient prophecy foretold long ago, as soon as he said it, I said, here we go with this bullshit. I'm telling you, it was that instant. I said, here we go. And as soon as I said, here we go with that bullshit, them motherfucking blue stars of David started fanning in our peripheral vision. Everybody was infected by that, whether they know it or not. I was the only one who looked for a long period of time to see if what I was seeing was actually what I was seeing. Everybody was front and center on Perry Farrell doing this little witchy dance. And I said, here we go with this bullshit. Would I have had a frame of reference had I not done the research to understand that Perry Farrell was not only Jewish, but a devoutly practicing Jew? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Would my default have been, here we go with this bullshit, if that had not already been my frame of reference, learning this recently? Baby, that nigga sat right on that stage and cast a spell. I said, here we go with this bullshit. You understand? So anyway, let me go back to this. But you know what? Let me read the rest of these comments. Sounds like blah, 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 blah. Energy vampires. Yes. Like the Vatican. Come on in the room. They've plagiarized and usurped our history and whitewashed everything. That's why our hope has to come from lived experience and intuition. Oh, Tajali, girl, you missed so much. But we about to go right back to this reading. And that is a good way. Veoni says that's why our hope has to come from our lived experience and intuition. That's where we left off, where we're talking about the difference between passive hope, that's hope imposed on us, fallacies, and baseless extra spiritual hope that pacifies us, right? An active hope that's revolutionary because it is based in our lived experience. It is based in us trusting the intuition of our flesh. Intuition is not abstraction. Intuition comes from your lived experience. Intuition comes from your vagus nerve, baby. Intuition comes from your bone, your blood. You understand? It comes from a very physical, biological lived experience that is always trying to protect you. That's what intuition comes from. That's where instincts come from. Okay. All right. So thank you for that, for taking us back to that. Okay. She says here, and then I think I'm only going to read for a few more minutes, then we'll be off of here. Okay. Where do we leave off? The power of being is that in which all finite beings participate, but not on a one-to-one basis, since this power is in all while transcending all. Communal hope involves in some manner a profound interrelationship with other finite beings, human and non-human alike. Ontological communal hope then is cosmic. Its essential dynamic is directed to the universal community. Yes, y'all. Finally, ontological hope is revolutionary, since the insight in which it is grounded is double-edged intuition of non-being and of being. It extends beyond the superstitious Yes, it extends beyond the superstitious fixations of technical reason. The latter, as Tillich has shown, when it is cut off from the intuitive knowledge of ontological reason, cannot get beyond superstition. That's what I got caught up on. Okay, so what she's saying here is just what we started talking about. As Tillich has shown, we're cut off from intuitive knowledge of ontological reason, cannot get beyond the superstitious. This strict adherence to disembodied spiritual ideas, right? So, in The Great Cosmic Mother, in the book, The Great Cosmic Mother, Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth, that we went through some time ago, she talks about this a lot. She talks about how in the chapter called The Machine, she talks about why so many people of color are distrustful of white spiritual movements or white led spiritual movements, because of the fact that it is so, disembodied from the very lived realities of human beings that are suffering on the earth. She talks about how um, uh, a lot of white-led spiritual spaces are people who are typically of middle or upper middle class status or wealthy status, looking for a way to escape responsibility for the way the world looks, and looking for a spiritual explanation that justifies oppression, that justifies poverty, that justifies starvation, spiritualizing one's wealth at other people's expense. That's what she calls it, spiritualizing one's wealth. Now it becomes, well, the reason that I'm rich is because I've mastered the process of manifestation. Right? The reason that I live so abundantly is because I have mastered myself and the art of manifestation. And you too can do that. If you are not living in abundance right now, it is some inherent weakness on your part and your ability to attract abundance. And so if you live a life of poverty, it is because your lowly thinking has attracted poverty lifestyle. Your poverty mindset is what has drawn poverty to you, you see, right? And baby, Barbara Moore goes off. She goes off. Mary Daly is a little bit gentle, but they're still saying the same thing. What she's saying here, when she says that when it is cut off, when our reason is cut off from the intuitive knowledge of ontological reason. Ontological reason is reason that you have garnered, you have gained through a very biological, lived, material experience, not separate from spirit, spirit embodied in. You know what? Let me just talk. Let me just go to Barbara Moore real quick, see if I can find this real quick, because she says so eloquently, spirituality is what happens to the flesh. Okay? Spirituality is what happens to the flesh. You cannot separate your spiritual experience from your fleshly experience. Hold on, where's that? Where is that? Y'all got to get up in this book, The Great Cosmic Mother, because Barbara Moore plays no games, holds no punches. Yes, where is that? Shoot. I really want to find this particular quote. It's in the machine. Yes, in the machine. This book was written. This book, The Great Cosmic Mother, was written in the year 1983, I believe, and she has a whole section on the controversy in 1983 about like abortion, and she says here, And she's talking about the conflict among so-called revolutionaries, revolutionary men and revolutionary women, because men always treat women's issues inside revolutionary circles, socialist circles, activist circles as somehow subordinate to, quote, the real issues. But she says here, as long as governments control female reproduction in any way, the workforce itself can be equally controlled. Vice versa, it will be possible for governments and global corporations to totally control populations of workers, so as long as they are able to control population of females as breeding machines. Like I said, she be going in. I really want to talk to you about this, the embodiment of spirituality. Yep. I might just have to go back to my, I might just have, that'll be something I do for another day, because, beyond the machine. Is this beyond the machine? Beyond the male God and his machine. Yeah, I'm gonna have to come back to that. But yes. Yeah, y'all gonna have to get in this book. Yeah, I'm gonna do that later. I'm gonna not divert, because I can sit up here all night and end up teaching a whole workshop. But that's what she means. Essentially, what she is talking about here is that spirituality is not disembodied. Spirituality is not apart from us. Spirit is not apart from us. God is not apart from us. She is right here. She is right in the flesh, and she speaks to us through our lived experience. Intuition, instincts, gut feeling, all of those are very cute ways to explain a very embodied experience that we all have. This is the cornerstone of the Christian prosperity movement. Come on, Tajali. Come on. Okay. The rising consciousness that women are experiencing of our dehumanized situation has the power to turn attention around from projections of our culture to the radically threatened human condition. Insofar as women are true to this consciousness, we have to be the most radical of revolutionaries, since the superstition revealed to us is omnipresent and plagues even the other major revolutionary movements of our time. Knowing that a black or white, Marxist or capitalist, countercultural or bourgeois male chauvinist deity, human or divine, will not differ essentially from his opposite. Women will be forced in a dramatic way to confront the most haunting of human questions, the question of God. This confrontation may not find its major locus within theological academia or in the institutional churches, and it may not always express itself in recognizable theological or philosophical language. However, there is a dynamicism in the ontological affirmation of self that reaches out toward the nameless God. In hearing and naming ourselves out of the depths, women are naming towards God, which is what theology always should have been about. Unfortunately, it tended to stop at fixing names upon God, which deafened us to our own potential for self-naming. The unfolding of God. This is the last little section I'm going to read before I end tonight. The unfolding of God. For those of you who tuned in late, I am reading the book Beyond God the Father and Toward a Philosophy of Women's Liberation. It has sometimes been argued that anthropomorphic symbols for God are important and even necessary because the fundamental powers of the cosmos otherwise are seen as impersonal. One of the insights characteristic of the rising woman consciousness is that this kind of dichotomizing between cosmic power and the personal need the personal need not be. That is, it is not necessary for to anthropomorphize or to It is not necessary to anthropomorphize or to reify transcendence in order to relate to this personally. Interesting. In fact, the process is demonic in some of its consequences. The dichotomizing, reifying, projecting syndrome has been characteristic of patriarchal consciousness. Making the other the repository of the contents of the lost self. Since women are now beginning to recognize in ourselves the victims of such dichotomizing processes, the insight extends to other manifestations of the pathological splitting off of reality into falsely conceived opposites. Oh, why indeed must God be a noun? Why not a verb? The most active and dynamic of all. Hasn't the naming of God as a noun been an act of murdering the dynamic verb? And isn't the verb infinitely more personal than a mere static noun? The anthropomorphic symbols of God may be intended to convey personality, but they fail to convey that God is being. Women now who are experiencing the shock of non-being and the surge of self-affirmation against this are inclined to perceive transcendence as the verb in which we participate, live, move, and have our being. This verb, the verb of verbs, is intransitive. This verb, the verb of verbs, is intransitive. It need not be conceived as having an object that limits its dynamism. That which it is over against is non-being. Women in the process of liberation are enabled to perceive this because our liberation consists in refusing the other and asserting instead I am, without making another the other. Whoa! Shit. She said without making without making another the other. Unlike Sartre's us versus a third, the closest approximation to love possible in his world, the new sisterhood is saying us versus non-being. When Sartre wrote that, quote, man fundamentally is the desire to be God, he was saying that the most radical passion of human life is to be a God who does not and cannot exist. The ontological, oh my God. Yo. He said, man fundamentally is the desire to be God. He was saying that the most radical passion of human life is to be a God who does not and cannot exist. What is she saying? The ideological God of patriarchy, right? Whether it's Yahweh, whether it's Allah, whether it's any of them niggas. What is the telltale sign that God is God? Is that God is disembodied? God is not a material force. What? God, if God is not a material force, does God exist? Right? And she says that man, and what is the evidence of what she's saying here? That man is the desire to be God. And what he is saying in his most radical passion of human life is to be a God who does not and cannot exist. She's basing this on patriarchal God figures. None of them exist. You have to have faith that they're real because there's no evidence of their realness because they're disembodied. If they had ever been made flesh, then they couldn't possibly be God based on the logic of these patriarchal religions, and that our aspiration is to become non-being too, is to die. We hope for death. I can't wait till I go to heaven. And so I'll do all the suffering I need to in my fleshly life, the life that I can prove, the life that I can detect, the life that is real, the life that I can tell exists. I will suffer in the best way I possibly can in this life to ensure that I am like God when I go to heaven, that I too am out of my flesh. I too can take off my meat suit. Child. And the other thing about this is like, Oh, there was a thought I had about that. Hold on. The ontological hope of which I am speaking is neither self-deification or the simplistic reified images often lurking behind such terms as creator, Lord, judge, that Sartre rightly rejects. It transcends these because its experiential basis is courageous participation in being. This ontological hope also has little in common with the self-enclosed ontological arguments of Anselm and Descartes. It enables us to break out of this prison of subjectivity because it implies commitment together. So there are a couple of things up in here. I'm not going to go too deep into it. Maybe that's something we'll discuss for the book club. But this doesn't just apply to spirituality. When I was in the African People's Socialist Party, this whole idea of disembodiment, of subjectivity, to reduce the significance of human relationships and human emotions was a popular theme in most socialist circles. Oh, you just being subjective, comrade. Like human emotions are not real. They're in your head, they're in your imagination. Love is an idea that does not come from an embodied experience, not where socialists are concerned. This was a huge issue, and it was primarily used as a weapon against the emotional experiences of women who knew inherently through their flesh something was wrong with the way that they were being treated in these circles that did not match the ideology. And so the quickest way to shut a bitch up was to say, oh, comrade, you being subjective. You being subjective. Now you can shut off any rage. You can shut off any frustration this woman might experience based on a very real lived experience that is contradictory to what the idea is, what the rules of discipline are, what the 14 point working platform is, what the bylaws of the organ, like what I'm experiencing is in direct contrast to what we say we believe. How I'm not being treated based on the laws, the bylaws of the organization, but when I raise it and I'm mad about it, when I'm raising it and I'm hurt about it, somehow I'm being objective. I'm being subjective, right? So part of that is what they're talking about here, but they're talking about it still within the context of religion, religious ideology and religion, the disembodiment of God itself. God, the God of Abraham, the God of, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, Jacob, and all of them dudes, you feel me, has never had sex. Even when he impregnated a 14-year-old virgin named Mary, he didn't have to have sex with her. So is it really rape? He didn't have to have sex with her, but she didn't have a choice. She was told by a big scary angel, look, God is going to knock you up with himself because you're a virgin. And so you need to be a virgin in order for him to exist in the material realm. But he can't be God. Actually, he has to become his son. You feel me? Because to humanize him in any way would create contradictions in the minds of people who subscribe to this ideology that this God is ever present, has always been ever present, and does not need to engage in any way. So as a matter of fact, in Beyond in Pure Love, she talks about it's the first time in human history, this story of Jesus, first time in human history where the gods aren't given like human like stories, right? Zeus was impregnating bitches to and fro, you feel me? Forcing himself on, turning himself into an animal, forcing himself on men and women and young people and the like, you feel me? Let's see, Fiona says, and God hates our flesh, but absolutely loves his chosen people for no other reason than their blood and flesh. Okay. Oh shit. Right? Anyway, I won't go that much deeper into that. Listen, see, the idea that breakthrough to awareness or of transcendence comes through some sort of commitment is not new, of course. It has been absent from existential philosophy. They aim to separate and demonize the flesh, deny reality of the flesh, even though flesh is the spirit itself manifest in reality. But in order to abuse the flesh and earth, they need to disembody a God. Absolutely, yes. And if we go, that's where I'm going to end. Let me put a pin in it because I'm tired now. My voice is getting tired. So we'll pick back up on that tomorrow. But just to respond to what Power Kazmek said, I love these comments. When we read Pure Lust, we talked extensively. You can go back to some of my shorts. A lot of my shorts are from our reading of Pure Lust, because when we talked about what she talked about in Pure Lust was what she called like the foundational pillars of patriarchal society, especially as it was emerging from the Roman Empire, the Roman Catholic Church, right? Which was what she called asceticism, but two, like types of asceticism, right? And she called it sadomasochistic asceticism. So sadistic asceticism and masochistic asceticism. You can go back, just watch those shorts on the difference between asceticism and masochistic asceticism. And asceticism is just simply extreme acts of self-denial or self-affliction to prove devotion to a deity or a person. Extreme acts of devotion that are either deprival or abuse of the flesh to prove loyalty to a deity or to a person. So when we think about old Catholics taking, the leather whip and, self-flagellating or cutting themselves, or, even something like vows of celibacy are considered acts of asceticism, right? And so she talks about the history of asceticism and patriarchal religion, not just Christianity and Catholicism. Hinduism is another primary one that we can think of, but these are more extreme physical acts of abuse that are ascetic. Walking on coals, sleeping on beds of nails, you feel me? Standing on one foot, meditating under a waterfall for hours and hours and hours. Like, these are all extreme acts of asceticism. She talks about this as a pillar. The abuse of the flesh, the denial of the flesh. But the denial and the abuse of the flesh is directly tied to the aversion, the abstract, disembodied male father God's repulsion by the human flesh based on its proximity to femaleness. I hope that came off clear. Based on the flesh's proximity to femaleness was what determined the need to suffer. And if you have a society, now I'm talking again about sadomasochistic asceticism, if you have a doctrine that teaches that you have to be punished for, quote, being born in sin, how are you born in sin? You were born in sin through the piss and blood and water of your filthy mama who condemned us all. And that's why you born in sin. Your filthy mama had to have filthy ass sex through her filthy ass body and vagina that you had to climb the fuck up out of to exist. And that's your proximity to femaleness. And since femaleness must be punished, even if you are born male, your flesh is still your tie to femaleness, and you must abuse your flesh, and you must deny your flesh, and you must deny the pleasures of your flesh. Even if you think about the act, it is a sin. You feel me? Everything becomes a sin because of its proximity to the inherent evil and diabolicalness of femaleness. If you suffer in the world, you have a whole philosophy, not just one, not just Christianity, not just Catholicism, Judaism, Islam, Catholicism, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, that teaches you that your flesh must suffer to achieve divinity, to achieve enlightenment. Then pain and suffering becomes one of the foundational pillars and stones that is necessary for you to achieve enlightenment. You believe that your pain and suffering is necessary to achieve enlightenment, but meanwhile the scriptures of these religions have to guarantee pain and suffering, because that is the only way that you are going to live a life doing work that you don't want to do, doing shit for others that you don't want to do, that your flesh is literally rebelling against. It is your ideology, it is your psychological and spiritual conditioning that teaches you that you have to revel in suffering. You have to revel in pain. And the other aspect of that is martyrdom, the pillars that she talks about in the book Pure Lust. Martyrdom, sadomasochistic asceticism, and what was the other one? Martyrdom, sadomasochistic asceticism, and what was the third one? And absolution. And absolution. Why is absolution necessary? So for those of you who may not know what absolution is, it is to be absolved of wrongdoing. It is to be absolved from the guilt of wrongdoing. Absolution, right? And so when you think about absolution, you think about like when you go into a booth in the Catholic Church, you say, Father, forgive me for I have sinned. And then the Father tell you, okay, your sins are forgiven. Do a few Hail Marys, leave some coffers in the fucking offering plate for the church, and you'll be all right, right? Why is absolution important as one of these foundational pillars for patriarchy, for patriarchal religions in general, and for the role the patriarchal religions play in the maintenance of the system as it is? Patriarchal religions are a necessary component of the establishment of the state, no matter what the state looks like in any given particular time, whether it's globalism or whether it's outright imperialism or whatever. Religious institutions and patriarchal father gods are a necessary component of that. Why would absolution be necessary? Because if you have a society, an entire global society, propped up on the ideas that pain and suffering are a necessary component for the achievement of enlightenment, to go to heaven, to have spiritual breakthrough, and all of that bullshit, and pain and suffering is necessary, then not only do you have to have, quote, the recipients of that pain and suffering, that's the masochistic aspect, the recipients of the pain and suffering, but the sadistic aspect of the asceticism is the disseminators, those who are spiritually ordained to disseminate the pain and suffering, because pain and suffering isn't something that happens in abstraction. If you are receiving pain and suffering, there has to be somebody that is disseminating the pain and suffering, issuing the pain and suffering. That's the state, right? That's the church. That's the police, right? You think about how you watch these movies back during the witch trials and shit, and you would always have the executioner that had the black mask on his face, so he could not be socially shunned. Nobody would know who the executioner is, so he would not be socially shunned for this role that he has, this relationship that he has to the state as the disseminator of necessary pain and suffering, as the ordained disseminator, as the spiritually protected disseminator of pain and suffering. So whether it was breaking every bone in your body with a club, or tying a noose around your neck and letting go of the lever, or putting your head on a rack and slicing it off with the guillotine, didn't matter. He was divinely protected. He was divinely absolved from guilt as the executioner, carrying out the will of the church to ensure the necessary pain and suffering, right? So you got absolution, martyrdom, and sadomasochistic asceticism that become the pillars for the myriad of ways that your wretched existence, poverty, enslavement, and then we believe that enslavement, we are taught that enslavement becomes a justified response to some crime we committed in a past life. It's our karma. You understand? The shit is deep. And so we have to be discussing these things, because it's the only way to explain a world where the majority of the 8 billion people on Earth are experiencing extreme, crucial, unimaginable pain and suffering, while the few become more and more and more and more opulent and wealthy to extremes that we cannot even fathom in our imagination. Jeff Bezos makes more in 30 minutes than we will make in several lifetimes. Several lifetimes. I read somewhere once, it's a poor repetition of the statistic, but the amount of money that Jeff Bezos makes in 30 minutes, I think, or an hour, it would take 12 generations to make the amount of money that he makes in an hour. It would take 12 generations of our lineage to make that kind of money. Right? Meanwhile, directly tied to that opulence is the suffering of millions, is the poverty of millions. And that's why these religions have to be disembodied, because there is no other way to explain that kind of imbalance globally, right? So anyway, I'm going to stop there, but I could go on and on and on. This is my bag. This is my bag. It is the issue of the age. I love this book, Beyond God the Father. For those of you who tuned in late and need to take a screenshot of it or whatever, Beyond God the Father and Toward a Philosophy of Women's Liberation by Mary Daly. Beyond God the Father and Toward a Liberation of Women's Liberation by Mary Daly. This is the work. So I do not trust, and I'm drawing harder lines. I just talked to y'all the other day about what happened to me this past weekend. I am drawing much firmer, much more clearly defined lines. I am not interested in relationships of niceness, where as long as you're nice to each other, y'all are friends. No, I'm not interested in that. We have to take sides. Otherwise, we will condemn another 2, 3, 4, 10 generations of people, human beings, to a world of suffering, where suffering is something that we expect from childhood. Suffering is something that we have come to expect as a normal part of human existence. Not that earth is supposed to be heaven for us. This is what the mother teaches us, that earth is supposed to be heaven for us. And she's constantly trying to play that out for us, and we constantly reject it because we believe wholeheartedly we deserve to suffer. That the only way to chase a fictitious afterlife in some mythological heaven somewhere is to guarantee that we suffer. So we do it. We do it gladly. We do it gleefully. We sing songs about our suffering. We sing songs about carrying our cross and bullshit. And the mother is constantly trying to tell you, through your happiness, I am fed. Through your ecstasy, I am emboldened. Oh my God. Through your ecstasy, baby, I am emboldened. You want to power me up? I need grand displays of your belief in my presence in your life. I need the same kind of grandiose displays these adherers to the Father God make. We need to be doubling that. But we need to be doubling that. So those of you who have been tuning in for the last maybe 3 or 4 days, I typically do Sunday service in the morning on Saturday, but what I have decided is that I'm going to do a Zoom conference so we can start really talking about what these grandiose displays are going to be. We have an imminent date coming up. I just got chills everywhere. November 19th, I've been talking to y'all about for 4 years. November 19th is rapidly approaching. We have to execute grand displays, grand spectacle. So we have to come together to decide what that is. We have to be creating spaces for women of color in general and Black women in particular to be in safe space, to rapidly move through our conditioning, move through our trauma so that we can become the leaders that break open. We will become women of color, the birth givers of the new age. That's just what it is. And these birth givers are going to need healthy ass midwives and mid husbands and mid people to usher in the new age. Now that shit might sound ambiguous to you, but I am crystal clear about what that means as an embodied being, as a spiritually embodied being, recognizing that my flesh is just as much a part of the body of God as my spirit is. We have a jack move to pull that I'm confident that we can pull, but it is only through the gathering of minds, the creation of safe space, and radical idealizing in real time, in the flesh, in person. This medium is awesome. It helps bridge many, many gaps, but we need to be up close, the fuck, and personal. We need to be conspiring to change the world. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be conspiring in real time to change the world. So, because our enemies are conspiring to maintain a stranglehold on the planet. Believe that. This reading was great tonight. I'm glad I decided to do it. I was really tired and I was really hesitant, but I'm glad I did it. Saturday morning at 10 p.m., 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're interested in getting the Zoom link sent to you, email me at releaseheartcenter@gmail.com. I will email that to you tomorrow so that you can be on that call. If you want to make a contribution to the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, those of you who are tuning in from Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, you can see scrolling across the bottom of the screen the different methods that you can make that contribution. Also, those of you who are tuning in from YouTube, you can always send super chats. I want to encourage you to become members of the page, The Daughter of the Fates. You can donate through Zelle, PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo. And please share my shit. Please, if anything speaks to you, which many of you say it does, share it, because if it speaks to you, it has the ability to speak to someone else. We have to pull a fucking jack move. And we have every planet and every star conspiring on our behalf to execute that jack move if we can plug the fuck in. So we have everything we need to pull this jack move. Let's see. How do we become members? If you're tuning in from YouTube, it should ask you when you go right into my page, become a member, right? It's the membership process. And so there are like 3 different memberships, and you just sign on that way. I have been threatening. I'm still working on this website conundrum of mine. Let's see. Thank you for sharing. Gonna hit the replay. Oh, Goddess Essence Energy. It's good to see you. Hey, Java Watson, baby. How you doing? Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Voiceovers by Stephanie Marie. Vayoni, N, Tajali, Power, Kesmet. I don't know if I'm saying that wrong. Abundance. Everybody that's tuned in, thank you so much. Mystical Press XO. I think that's everybody that's tuning in via IG. Yes. King Henry, Mona, Kwanla, Arasli, Shotlak, Frank, Knowledge Born. Oh wow, okay, that's the homie. The Empress Sharifa. Thanks everybody for tuning in. It looks like the witching hour is y'all's hour. Rose S. Looks like y'all, that's y'all hour. Angelica. See, look at this. Everybody's witching hour is the hour, apparently. So this will probably be the norm. This Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, but every other time I'll probably be on like around 9, 10 o'clock. All right. Love you all. Thank you for it. This is Cassandra Faye Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates, and I will see you again tomorrow for the reading of Beyond God the Father and Toward a Philosophy of Women's Liberation. I am promising. I continue to promise. I will try. Y'all try to keep me disciplined. I really want to get through this book. I'll try to keep my interjections very, very limited. Okay? Good night. Dream deep, dream big, dream profound and prolific. Pay attention to signs. Pay attention to signs. Do not ignore the language coming through your dreams. Be purposeful, be deliberate, take notes, journal. Okay? Good night.